Okay, so this is Weave by Jay and Elizabeth Isles, and this game is about kind of clothes and fashion and their importance in culture. And so basically the characters that we'll be playing in this game are from 3 different groups of thread folk, or people who use magic to create clothing, and we'll go through what those different, how those different people are different. And so for this game, I kind of set the general feel of it as being steampunk-ish. So very fantasy, but also like the ability to have like different technology, things that I'm kind of thinking of are like maybe like steampunk, like airships or robots, or that kind of just like style or aesthetic. But we can also fill out more specific things that we want. So in this game, it is a diceless game. The rules are pretty simple. So in the game, let me find them. Oh, it just started pouring outside. So I was like, what is that noise? It's pouring. So in this game, so the basic premise of the game is that you are a novice of kind of like this thread magic, and you're sort of in a group, you're with a group of other people, kind of your same age, your same level, you're all novices. And I see you have a familiar to join us. So it's kind of like in the book, it's kind of described as sort of like a gap year. It's like you guys are going out to experience the world in these different places in the world. And I decided not to do a map of the world or anything. 1, because I can't draw and I don't like the map generators, and 2, kind of just to like leave it up to the imagination of where we're going, because we're going to be visiting different like towns or cities. And so our group spends 4 days in each place and kind of gets to know the local culture and the local people. And on the 5th day, we have to, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce this, but it's called the egregore. It's basically kind of, it's a little yarn mannequin animated by the garment of interest power. So in each place, we'll find a special garment that embodies the culture of the city that we've gone to. And basically, at the end of our stay there, we kind of create this little talisman, and that kind of based on this power, which is supposed to essentially teach you as a novice kind of more about like the magic of the world and the mysteries of the weave, which is kind of like, you know, like this like magical universe as defined through the garments. And the way that we create this egregore is focused on kind of learning more about the culture of the place through the specific garment. And you have, each egregore needs a certain number of weft and warp. And the weft, let me make sure I get this right and don't mix it up. The weft is the cultural resonance of the garment. So you want to learn about the cultural significance, who wears it, who doesn't, what does it mean? And then the warp is the physical properties, like the materials you need to make it, the physical properties, the manufacturing of it. And then, so you need to know those things. And throughout your stay, you will earn points towards those by interacting with the people and the culture. And basically, you as the players will not know how many are required to create the egregore. I will describe the garment to you, and from that description, you will have to kind of guess how much you're shooting for. Basically, the higher the points, the more complex. So, like, for example, like if it's something that doesn't take, that's simple to manufacture, simple materials, that would be a 1 warp. And then, but if it was like rare materials, very hard to make, that would be a higher number. I think the max would be 5, I think, just to not make it too complicated. So like if it's very rare materials, very hard to make, that would be like a 5. And then the weft is the cultural expectations, the cultural meaning. So something that's like, maybe it's like kind of unique to the culture, but doesn't really have much significance beyond that, would be something like a 1. But then something that, you know, can only be worn by a specific person and it signifies some kind of social status, that would be a higher number, like a 3, 4, 5. Does that make sense? So in order to get points towards and you can see this in the PDF too, it kind of lays out what you need to get warp and weft points. Basically, it's interacting with people and the culture around this garment. So in terms of warp, you need to like see you need to see somebody wear it, see it up close, get the materials, watch someone make it, make a copy of it. And then with weft, you have to see it in use, get somebody to tell you about it, spend time with somebody wearing it, be taught how to wear it, be taught how to make it. And while we're playing the game, if you're specifically like out to get a certain warp or weft point, you can say like, oh, I'm doing X, Y, and Z because I'm trying to get a warp or weft point, just so that I know that's what you're trying to do. And then if you're doing something that I think would earn you a warp or weft point, I'll mention that too. So while we're doing this, you have like, while we're in this area for 4 days, in order to get these points, you want to like interact with people and like kind of go around the city and like trying to get to know it, like go to certain places like a museum or a special place or like a church, or try and meet people, try and hang out with the local people. And one of the goals of this game is sort of to like think about tourism and like what it means to experience other cultures, like learning about like these cool things from other cultures, what it means to like kind of learn about it superficially and just like take it, or actually like learn about it on a deeper level. Things like, yeah, it's like really thinking about what it means to be a tourist and kind of either like appropriating things from a place you're just visiting, or really learning about it. So that's really what kind of the process of going through all of this is kind of centered around that theme. And so as we get into it, I think just the mechanics will become more clear. So in terms of like the tone for the game, I'm pretty open, and we can talk about this too. I think just like, you know, in terms of like, since the theme is about like tourism and like thinking about like like appropriating things from other cultures. I think like it would be good to like, you know, be able to be a little serious in terms of treating those situations. But in terms of things like, do we want it to be more fun or more dramatic, I'm pretty open. So is there a particular tone that you all would like to go for?
When I read the rules, it reminded me of the old Lucasfilm adventure from the 80s, Loom, which has sort of a fairy tale-like tone. So that's what I imagined when I read the rules, and I thought, okay, this sounds great, but this is just, you know, my first impression. It doesn't have to be fairy tale-like.
I think it definitely has the potential to be very fairy tale-like.
Yeah, I think I like that as well. I also thought of Loom when, like, just now when I was reading through that, so that's kind of crazy.
I didn't think of Loom. I think that's one of the few ones I haven't played.
Yeah, I'm a little too young for that, but to remember that. But yeah, yeah. So that's good. And so now let's just talk about safety tools. So we'll have the X card. So if you ever feel uncomfortable about something, my general rule is that since we're probably going to switch between a lot of windows with the character keeper and the rule book, the best way for me to make sure that I hear you is just to say it out loud. You can also type it in the chat or like do X with your hands. And we can talk about it if you want. We don't have to. We'll just kind of rewind and go a different direction or move past it. So that's always on the table at any point. And then another thing that I want to do is do lines and veils. That is the second slide in the little PowerPoint in the folder. And so I just have it in the PowerPoint so we can do it anonymously if I can find the bullet points. And so lines and veils is basically like setting up expectations for things you don't want to see in the game so we can just avoid them from the beginning. And so a line is like a hard no. You don't want it to be in there at all. You know, like no mention of it. We're just not going to put it in the world. And then a veil is more like something that can be mentioned. Like when I use veil, sometimes I say like it can be in the backstory, but it doesn't happen during the story. Or if it does happen during the story, it won't happen on screen. And also with lines and veils, we'll set them up now, but you can add to them at any point. Like you don't like, this isn't something like, oh, I didn't put it at the beginning, so now I just have to deal with it. No, we can add to them at any time. You can always move something from a veil to a line, and you can X card anything. Like my usual veil is just sexual violence of any kind. I don't want to see it on screen. Usually like I'm fine with it being like in the backstory of a character, but I don't like having it like be in the story or happening to any of the characters. And then if anybody wants that to be a line, that can also be upgraded to a line.
I'm fine with it being a veil. Lines, I would add explicit violence against kids, so any form of torture or something. Oh, explicit violence.
Yeah. The way that this game is set up, there's not really much violence in like the premise. Like, I mean, it could always happen, but I think it'll be easy to avoid those sorts of things. Like, of course, as in life, it can always happen, but it's not really a fighting game. Tina, I'm fine right now, but sometimes you break up a little bit for me. Can you say something real quick?
How's that sound?
It sounds fine right now.
Okay. Well, you and Ika have both been kind of breaking up a little.
Can you hear me? Is the connection okay?
Yeah. It's
please,
fine now.
Okay, tell me if I keep breaking up, then I need to go offline for 2 minutes and move to the other computer, which is probably more stable.
Robert,
yeah, maybe it's my
can
connection.
You hear everything?
Yeah, I've heard everything pretty well so far.
Okay. It may be my own connection then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like the only thing is your video quality is a little bit low, so it might be your connection.
Yes, and we all know that in Germany we still live in the Middle Ages when it comes to internet connection. Tends to be very slow. It's a sad truth.
Very quick.
Oh wow. Seems like... Ah, there you are again, Tina.
Yeah, it's possible that my Wi-Fi antenna fell somewhere. It did. Was on the floor. But it's back.
Do you need more time with lines and veils, or are you good with what we have so far? Okay, so we have parentheses, explicit violence against kids. So we'll just, no violence against kids. Veils, sexual violence, lots of blood, killing or hurting animals. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, so we're gonna do the Microsoft palette. Oh, this is, I said Microsoft, the microscope palette, not Microsoft. So with the microscope palette, it's basically kind of just a world building technique, and we'll take turns adding things we want and don't want from the world. So for example, like, something to want, like, for example, could be something like nights. Like, I want nights, like KNIGHTS, not the daytime. Or then maybe something you don't want could be something like robots. I don't want robots in the world. So it's just kind of creating the kind of like world that you want to play in. So we'll take a couple of turns doing that. So Ika, you can go first. I'll just pick on you. And you can pick either column you want.
All right. So if it's a steampunkish setting, as you said, and we all agreed that there are fairy tale elements, if we blend that, maybe some of the robots are animal-like shaped. I don't know.
Sure.
Fox robots, bear robots, something like that, or is that totally?
You can have animal-shaped robots.
Is that too silly?
No, I like that. That's fun.
So where do I enter? Or where do I put that?
So it's slide number 3. I wrote it. So you should be able to see microscope palette.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, animal-shaped robots. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
That's a wand. Oh, sorry. Great.
Robert, you're just next on my screen, so I'll pick on you.
It's hard. I guess I would say a want would be just really kind of like wild fashion. I don't know how to describe exactly what I mean, but just like
really out there.
Yeah, like almost alien type of fashion.
Yeah. That's cool. And also when we do character creation, you will be able to just like, part of it is describing what your character will wear. So, go wild.
So, is it my turn next?
Yeah.
Since it is kind of fairy tale like, I think I would like to exclude one thing that I've seen a little much in fairy tales, which is princesses.
Okay. No princesses. Do you want to exclude like royalty altogether or just princesses?
I've been thinking about that, but I don't think I would exclude it completely.
Okay, yeah, we'll just avoid that like trope of the princess.
Yeah.
Okay, it's my turn. Well, actually, I'll just let you all do it. So go back to you, Aika.
Wow, this is very okay. We probably maybe we should include some more, I don't know, fantastical elements like, I don't know, so steampunkish. What about gods? Do we want to need gods and religion and worship in there? Anyone strong opinions on that?
I personally wouldn't exclude them, I think, because many cultures are based in them. So
yeah, we can have God-based religions.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
Robert, you're next.
I guess going along with the fairy tale tropes, I know it's in the name, but like I don't necessarily want like fairies themselves.
Yeah, okay.
Like I'm fine with other things like, elves or something like that. Like an elvish people, but just not your stereotypical fairy.
Yeah, no.
Or like
pixies.
a fairy godmother.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that would go well with the intro text you have on the gauntlet page would be, I think, somehow flying islands or cities or buildings, something like that.
That would be really cool.
Flying pieces of land, I guess. Yeah.
Unless anyone else has any strong opinions, I think this is good for now.
Do we need some kind of antagonist, like the big bad wolf or something?
Well, that will probably be different for each place we go.
All right.
Yeah, because it's kind of episodic in that way. It's more of an episodic game.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah, the only other thing I had, and granted I've not played this and just barely read through what you sent, is perhaps like it'd be cool to have an extinct religion, or not religion, but a culture, like some culture that's died off and that we can sort of rediscover.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, perhaps in one session we can visit like the abandoned place.
Yeah, and it could also be a culture who's trying to rediscover what they used to be.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I guess we'll go to character creation now. And I apologize, I was having some trouble with the like auto-filling on the spreadsheet because I'm still like learning how to do this. So in the character keeper that's like pinky red, it works, but I don't think it really works in the other ones. So you might have to copy and paste some things in from the PDF. So in terms of character creation, so character name, pronouns, the look, and then the outfit is an important part, obviously, because really in this game, people kind of express themselves through clothes rather than like physical appearance, because there's so much emphasis on the garments. And then each person will choose a tradition. And so there's basically three different groups that you as a character can come from, and that'll influence the different abilities that you have. So there's a traveling company, which is more nomadic, and they are more focused on animal textiles because of like taking the animals with them. And the tradition that you pick will influence kind of the glyphs that you draw. So glyphs are basically things that you draw power from or that embody your power, kind of inspired by just like a piece, like a woven piece of cloth that has like a design in it. And so everybody will start with one. Like as a novice, you have one glyph, and then when you successfully make an egregore, you will get another one. And so ideally, the game would be over when you obtain 7. I don't think we have a long enough campaign to do that, but we'll get as long as we can. And so just like when you're creating, especially your first glyph, it will influence the kind of glyph you make just by like, whether it's like influenced by living creatures or something else. Yes, with the traveling company, they have to travel, the fabric source has to travel with them, hence the animal textiles. If they do commissions for local elites and spectacular fashion shows. A loom monastery. In the remote mountains, small groups of thread folk maintain self-sufficient self-sufficient monasteries. So colorful but quiet compounds covered in tapestries, delving into the more abstract enigmas of the weaves. These Volavna, or just red folk, are pacifist and vegetarian, focusing on plant fabrics. Cotton, wooden bead chains, linen, jute, hessian, etc. And don't worry if you don't know what all the fabric types are. I don't either. And then...
Yeah, that's very good, because I looked all the words up in the dictionary and thought I didn't know the English words. And then I knew the German words, and I thought, I don't know what they mean either. So I have no idea what all those things are in German. So
yeah, we will all be experts in fabric by the end of this.
hopefully, yes.
The Fabricator Guild, these fabricators live in high-walled compounds and settlements across the world. The walls aren't to keep the city out, but these Volavna are dedicated to the creation of artificial threads, and their boiling baths can be intemperate at best of times. Fabricators tend to be the most innovative and impulsive of the Volavna and focus on forged fabrics: vinyl, nylon, acrylic, metal chains, Kevlar, etc. So I guess this, it's kind of technology, but in a more, like historical or magical setting. And so just impressions, like I think we can kind of define different like cultural characteristics and relationships between the different groups along the way. But just like my impressions is that they're all different in like, both like values as well as craft, and like the types of personality that they can foster. So just keep that in mind, just kind of loosely basing your character off that. And then the 4 threads is basically kind of picking what skills you are good in. Well, not good and bad, but like what you're the best at and what you're the least good at. And basically you will use these kind of magical powers throughout the game if you're like trying to do something. Like, say for example, you have like, for the thread that protects, you can use, it's in garments that protect an attack. Say you have like a leather vest on and you're getting attacked, you can use a thread from thread that protects to like turn it into armor for a minute. So that's the kind of magic you would take a thread from your pool to do. And so it's primary to least favored. Yeah, and it's kind of, it's described as like minor miracles. So it's definitely feats, but you can't necessarily, we're not necessarily changing the world here. And the little italic at the bottom of each of those in the PDF, which is page 8, kind of just has a little description. Thread that protects, spend a point to shield yourself or others from harm. Thread that reveals, spend a point to captivate, enthrall, or impress others. Thread that conceals, spend a point to hide your identity, evade detection, or present a false facade. Thread that suffices, spend a point to help you endure, resist fatigue, and ease others' burdens. And there's examples of different materials that they can be made, that those things could be made out of, in different clothes. And so during each session, so for example, for your best thread, you would have 4 points for that. And so you could do it, you could use that 4 times. And then going down. Like if you only have one for thread that protects, you can only use that one time per session because that's your point pool.
Is there any way to get those points back, or is it? I mean, like you said, it's per session, right?
Yeah, it resets at the beginning of each session.
Do you change the 4, 3, 2, 1 every session, or is it always the same?
I believe it's the same, but let me check. I think it's the same because you do get new glyphs, but I think the glyphs just give you kind of different abilities, and I don't think they're adding to the point pool. Like for example, the reweaving glyph, the garment can transform into whatever is most desperately needed by you at the moment. I think if you have that glyph, you can use that ability, and I don't think you need a point to use that, but that's not adding to the point pool. If you wanted to do something else besides that, you would draw from the same point pool. So when and we'll make the glyphs in a second, because your first glyph is determined by what your primary thread is and what your tradition is.
I was wondering if the tradition is if it makes sense that each of us has a different tradition, and how we would have met. Is it possible that we could come, or several come from the same tradition?
I think it's fine. Like, to me, I think it's fine if like two people have the same one. It might be a little like, just for variety's sake, we might not want to have all three of you being from the same one.
Okay.
I think narratively it's fine. It's fine to have people from the different traditions, because even if they're different, they all know, like, the three traditions all interact.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can at least say that I'm least interested in the Loom Monastery, the plant people. More interested in either the Fabricator Guild or the Traveling Company. So the animal or forged fabrics people.
Yeah, and I'm pretty interested in the Fabricator Guild.
Well, I can. Yeah, I would like the Loom Monastery. That's fine with me. Mm-hmm.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it was I was swaying between the first two, Traveling and Loom Monastery. But
perfect. Yeah. Then I would pick the Traveling Company. Excellent.
I'm just going in when like on Robert, on yours, I just filled in the description for Fabricator Guild because the spreadsheet was not working the way I wanted it to, so I just put it in. Oh, I think we accidentally might be on different character keepers. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
We're using the copy one, right? Because you probably want to keep the regular one for other. So I'm on the
Robert,
copy.
Okay,
Yeah, me
Robert,
too.
can you jump over to the copy one?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that I made copies right before this.
I was guessing you wanted to keep the original for other plays.
You want us to do more than picking the company or?
Yeah,
what is it called?
go ahead and fill out all of it.
Okay.
Except for the glyph.
All right. So look, outfit, etc. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have anything in mind for names, so you can just pick whatever you want.
I think I read something about the name of some kind of garment or textile would be an idea, but I'm not sure yet.
Sure, if you want to do that, that's good.
All right. Okay.
Oh, I already have a glyph.
So I filled it in for you because your first glyph is your tradition plus your strongest thread.
Oh, okay, thanks. That's fine. Oh, it's very practical.
If the Excel sheet was working right, it would automatically populate, but it's not. Ika, don't forget to give your character a name.
Oh, yes. That's very good. All right.
But we still paint the first grid, right, into the little grids.
Yeah.
And the glyphs.
Let me see. Copy of glyphs. Okay, yeah. So for glyph 1, so glyph 1 is determined by tradition plus strongest thread. So yes, and then so that is what you're doing, and you can draw whatever you want. There is guidelines about the kind of motifs that your tradition uses, like the traveling companies favor living creatures because that's what they get their fabric from. Loom Monastery is more abstract patterns and symbols, and then Fabricator Guilds, forces of nature and civilization, like stars, waves, wheels, roads. So based on those guidelines and what your glyph is, you can draw whatever you want.
Okay. It's a little game in itself.
Yeah. Paint by number.
Yeah.
am I in the correct sheet? It's glyphs, this Excel sheet.
Yes, there. I think we're going to use the one that says copy of glyphs.
Oh, right. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry
yeah,
about
sorry.
that.
No, it's my fault. Okay.
Also, there's no pressure to be the best grid colorer that ever lived. This is just for fun. Just do your best.
Wow, Tina, this looks amazing.
Well, I'm not sure if it's the best color choice, but maybe also a bit too complicated.
This is how I was drawing on my Commodore 64, like putting in those little tiles everywhere. Wonderful.
Okay, so that's supposed to be a yellow swirl in front of the kind of weaving. Yeah.
Good.
Do you want to screen share it for a second?
Sure.
So that everyone can see what we've done.
Oh. Oh no, I messed it up.
There it is.
Wonderful.
Yes. These are our beginning glyphs of power for our 3 novices. Good idea to share the screen. So, are you all done? Do you need another minute for the glyphs? Why don't we do character introductions and then take a little break before we jump into playing? And so I think we'll just do one town today since it's still getting started. So Tina, why don't you go first? We'll go right to left.
Yeah. I neglected to add a look for Folia because, as the game says, if it's not important to me, I can leave that out for now. Folia is from the Loom Monastery tradition, which means she's pacifist and vegetarian and mostly makes plant fabrics. And that's why she wears a simple linen dress that is a very bright color, like a leafy spring green and wears an apron, a practical orange apron over it, and a nice beaded belt. And she, her most important thread is the thread that suffices, which means, let me go to the, yes, found in clothing and fabric not chosen, but still cherished. Garments, sacks, tunics, blankets, robes. Spend a point to help you endure, resist fatigue, and ease others' burdens. Just leave it at the most important thread, I guess. And I have the glyph of reweaving, which means my garment can transform into whatever is most desperately needed by me at the moment.
And it's a little swirl.
Yes. Like some kind of magic reweaving, something that's already been woven.
All right, Robert, let's go to you.
Okay, so my character's name is Alistair. He's got blue eyes, short brown hair, medium height, tries to maintain a sophisticated look to himself. And he is wearing a shiny, thin silver shirt, kind of adorned with golden chains, with some purplish indigo nylon pants. And then he also likes to wear some silver chain gloves to protect his hands from the elements. And he is from the Fabricator Guild, who makes a lot of forged element fabrics. And the thread that is most important to him is the thread that reveals, which, let me find that, is, so I can spend a point to captivate, enthrall, or impress others. And he is very much all about enthralling and impressing others. And then his first glyph is the Crown of the Regent, which allows his garment to subtly shift into whatever denotes authority in the local area. So the actual glyph itself is meant to be either a crown or a throne with kind of a star overhead.
Cool. Great. So Aika, let's go to you.
Right. This is Defarge. He is very tall, has a wild look and hair, or is it fur everywhere, talks with a very deep voice, and usually wears a large red fur coat. It's difficult to say whether it's fox or bear or anything. And in fact, it's so large that you can hardly see him under all the fur. There are leaves and twigs here and there in that coat, and red eyes pierce through the darkness from under his hood. He is from the traveling company, so the nomadic caravans, and I imagine him to be, when they put on a show, that he's some kind of, well, he's advertised as the Beast Man or something, whatever it is they're doing. And the thread that protects is his favorite one. And his first glyph of power is adaptation. Your garments shift to protect you in your current situation, growing hide, fur, spines, etc. as appropriate.
And what did you do for the glyph?
You mean the kind of gesture?
Yeah, what you drew.
Yeah, it's sort of two arrows pointing to one direction, meaning that, well, that whatever, that it's always forward looking wherever you go, and that it grows into, it's like, it can be interpreted like a timeline pointing to the right. It can be interpreted like stepping or going forward, all that sort of thing. And those two little arrows.
Okay, so why don't we take, let's take a 13-minute, let's come back at 25, so like 10, 13-minute break. Okay.
All right.
Right.
Okay. See ya.
Yeah.
All right. So the three of you have been put together. What is it? Excuse me. I thought there was a word, but there's not. So you three have been put together kind of on this journey to explore the world and get to know the world. And you've been traveling for a little while. It's still pretty early, but I'd say you're about a month in at this point. So you've gotten to know each other. A city called the City Clairvoyant. And
is this only my connection, or is Noella breaking up?
No, it's for me too.
Okay, good.
Yeah, for me too.
sorry, just breaking up a little. So you come to the City Clairvoyant, and this city is famous throughout the world for having people who could see.
Oh no.
He's probably reconnecting
Mm-hmm.
to try to make it better.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Usually when I start broadcast or turn the camera back on, it cycles a few times, but I think it's good. So the City Clairvoyant, famous throughout the world for people who can tell the future. And the women of Clairvoyant are especially known for being powerful seers, whether you're born a woman or you're transgender, it doesn't matter. Just the women are especially powerful. And people tell the future through different methods: cards, visions, stars. The thing is that no future is certain, even though they can see the future. Futures are multiple and subject to change. So this leads to customer dissatisfaction, if you will, in some sense, because while it is very useful to tell the future, it can be very unsettling to know multiple futures and not know which one will happen. So in the last few years, there has been a group that has popped up called the Solares, and they are led by a man named Hellion who calls himself a prophet. And this is basically, it's sort of like a cult or religious group. At this point, it's growing stronger, but it's not super established. And Hellion claims to be the prophet of the sun god, and he claims that there is only a single future, but it is mysterious, and we can divine things about the future through watching the movement of the sun. And so Solares wear special sunglasses that let them watch the sun. Now, granted, these are not like sunglasses that will totally protect your eyes from the sun. So there are definitely people who have lost vision or gone blind from looking at the sun. But this is, this is what has been going on here. So you arrive in the town, and you're staying at an inn, and right now you are just kind of walking around, looking around town. There's just around the streets of the city, there's different people selling things like little booths. There's street vendors selling food. There's also a lot of like different setups for fortune telling or divining the future. There's no real rules on there's no like business rules on where you have to like set up a business. So people kind of do it ad hoc, kind of choose how they want to do it. So you see different people like selling food. This isn't like the marketplace or something, so it's not completely like corner to corner, complete with stalls. But there are people selling food, maybe like kids selling newspapers or candy, and then various people selling different future divining services. There are people just kind of hanging around as well, playing poker and other card games. So, what do you do?
So we are arriving in the city, or we have been staying in the inn or we arrived today?
Yeah, you arrived today, so this is day number 1.
Day number 1. All right, and there are 4 days for us, right?
Yes, you have 4 days. We can kind of arbitrarily go through the days. I don't have like a set number of events that have to happen, but we have 4 days, and then day number 5 is when we have to make the egregore.
Yes. I would like to get to know the characters a little better. I assume that we are already friends, but since we now start to play, I could imagine that we talk about the city of clairvoyance, and at some point, Defarge would ask you, so Folia and Alistair, what do you think? Is there one single threat for the future, or are there multiple threats knit together?
Folia says, I think there must be several threads. Like the fabric of the universe is woven together from many threads. It can't be just one, or it would all unravel.
I think it's an almost unlimited amount of threads. We can create threads on our own. It has to be multiple.
But if you follow your instincts, well, then it's clear what happens. You hunt and you kill. That's how any animal does it. So there can only be one threat. Isn't that right? I have never heard of 2 instincts.
But there's so many influences from the environment that can change anything. Sometimes the animal just dies or trips and falls down and it doesn't hunt and it dies. Or the animal that has been hunting gets away and it goes hungry. It's all something that can happen. So
I agree. There is a successful hunt and an unsuccessful hunt. And the difference between those can be very different.
So I guess Defarge, he's gone, right? Things there's just one thread. wonder how that's supposed to work.
Sorry for that.
I guess you could just continue the conversation you're having.
But anyway, I would love to know more about this fledgling cult and what kind of...
I don't... do you think you as the characters know about it yet?
Oh, okay. Probably not.
You may have to encounter someone.
Okay. Okay, so if we don't know that yet, then I guess we'll just try to... Yeah, I think Folia says, I think I want to know these people here. I want to know what they eat and what they wear and how they use that to tell the futures. And I think she goes to one of the stalls and looks at what they have to offer as street food.
Oh, the food stall? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you come to the stall, and there's a young woman who is staffing the stall, and she has stew, and it's kind of a big pot that she kind of has on the fire or some kind of burner, and kind of is stirring it around.
Oh, hello. I'm new in town. And I've been wondering if you have any vegetarians too?
The woman kind of looks at you and says, and she stirs the pot and kind of pulls up the ladle and looks at it and shows it to you and says, see this, and shows it to you, and it's kind of a scoop that just has like vegetables in it, and she says, here, this is vegetarian stew, and she kind of pours it into a bowl for you.
Oh, I know that kind of vegetarian soup.
And she's like, the soup will become vegetarian when it wants to.
Oh, thank you. And how much do I owe you for the bowl of soup? And actually, probably as much as I'd like to.
Yeah, I think it's, you pay the transaction. And then I think you're standing there kind of next to her, kind of looking at your semi-vegetarian stew, probably. And another young woman walks up, and it looks like they're related, probably sisters or cousins. And this young woman is wearing dark sunglasses, and the sunglasses have hold on, let me see if I'll show you mine. So on the side of the sunglasses, like on these, there's like a pattern.
Oh.
See, like the pattern, but it looks like a sun. It's like orange and yellow, and it has like a sun with the little suns that are connected by like fancy lines. And so this young woman comes up and starts talking to probably her sister. And it starts out like very friendly. She says, "Oh, hello, Tess. How are you?" Such conversation, and then they start to argue, because Tess, the stall vendor, says to her sister, like, "Rose, come on, take off those silly glasses. Like, that Hellion fellow is nothing but a bunch of hot air." And they start to like really get into it.
And Folia is sorry.
Go for it.
Yeah, she is kind of curious, but she's not one to listen to gossip, so she tries to listen in, but not as obvious. and moves a little over to the others. Back to the other two.
It's difficult to say whether Defarge is listening or not, because his face is usually hidden under his furry coat and hood. But you can hear him mumble something like, "This looks like two animals fighting. I like it." And he steps closer to the two, to Tess and her sister.
So I think at some point, so you're watching this happen, and Rose, the sister with the sunglasses, looks straight up at the sky, like looking at the sun, and she says, kind of loudly, like she's meaning for other people on the street to hear this. She says, There's a bad omen. Disaster will strike." And at that moment, she says that kind of like very enigmatic statement. Like the bowl of stew, kind of not the bowl of stew, like without any like prompting, kind of like falls off the booth and like breaks. Like the stew spills everywhere, and the bowl, well, it's probably made of metal, so it doesn't break, but it's like it kind of like makes a really loud noise and gets everywhere.
Folia tries to jump out of the way and protect her own bowl of soup at the same time. There's some strife in this community. I see.
And
You're right at home here, Defarge.
They call it the city of clairvoyance. Did that woman just predict the future?
That is the question, isn't it?
And I think she overhears you, Defarge, and she looks at you and says, "The great prophet Hellion has told us that we can look to the sun for omens about the future. We have been wrong for so long. There are not multiple futures. There is only one. And the sun and its dance in the sky will tell us." And then she like walks away, like very dramatically walks away. And like some of the other people on the street are kind of just like shaking their head at her or other things. It's kind of like, it's a very chaotic scene. It turns chaotic very quickly.
See, I told you. One threat, one future. I was right. You were wrong. Admit it, Folia.
We don't know that for sure yet.
You
Maybe.
just saw that woman predict the future, didn't you?
You think that it was proof? The bowl of soup falling for a bad omen? That was just some... I don't think so. And everybody was shaking their heads. I think they don't believe her either.
So Tess kind of looks at you all and says, "Travelers, the cults of the Solares are but one small group among us. We of the City of Clairvoyance know that there are multiple futures and that we can see them and influence which one shall pass." And she kind of walks over to where the bowl of stew has fallen. And so there's the broth, and then there's also all the little stuff that was floating in it, like the vegetables and the chicken. And she kind of, I mean, it's ruined, so it doesn't matter. But like with her like foot, she kind of like uses it like to poke at it and look at it. And she says, "So many futures are in store for you. One of adventure and discovery and knowledge of all the threads weaving together to form glyphs. Yet there is the possibility that the threads will not come together and tangle or rip apart. You must be vigilant. You must keep your hands on the loom."
Thanks. That's some good advice. But still.
Wait, what? How do you know us, woman?
I don't. I simply repeat what I see. Even in this spilled soup, the future is revealed.
Defarge comes a little closer, starts sniffing like an animal. You mean that vegetarian soup you were talking about earlier?
Anything can tell the future if you just set your eyes the right way.
Tess and Rose, are they, except of the sunglasses, are they wearing similar clothes?
Yeah. I mean, since they're, I think the people with the people kind of selling like future divination each have more distinct outfits, but like the food vendors and the people just walking around are kind of wearing more plain clothes. So for this city, the garment that I'm thinking of is those sunglasses. So since you saw the garment up close, I'm going to give you 1 warp point. So just as we continue, keep looking for opportunities to get those warp and weft points.
So we collect them as a group, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. So, Robert, what do you want to do next?
I was thinking I wanted to go to one of the stalls to have my my future told.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially if I've witnessed what just happened, then after that I would be like, okay, let's see what they have in store for me.
So, on this particular street, I think Tess kind of shushes you away a little bit so that she can clean up this big mess. And then a little further down the street, you can see a couple of different options for this. There is a woman sitting on a blanket on, well, she's kind of propped up against like the wall of one of like the buildings or stores that's right on the street, and she's sitting on a blanket, and she has like a bunch of tarot cards that are laid out, and she's kind of messing with them because she doesn't have anyone sitting there right now. And then on the other side of the street, there is also something that's like a tent, kind of like a small tent. Kind of imagine like a fortune teller tent that you would go to at like a carnival. It's kind of very gaudy, and you can't see inside. There's like an opening, but you're a little too far away to see inside it. But it's like pink and purple, and those are the two sears that you can see right now.
I'll go to the lady on the blanket.
Okay, so as you're walking up to her, she is an older woman with kind of shoulder-length gray hair, but wearing a dress that's like a indigo or dark blue, and she has very nice hands. And she has a couple of different like tarot card decks that she's shuffling and playing with.
Hello. I just wanted to see if you could tell me my future. That's what you do here, right?
She looks up at you and she says, "Hello, Alistair."
Oh. I wasn't aware that we knew each other.
Well, we will.
Okay. Well, what's your name?
I'm Stell. Please sit. And then she kind of gestures to the other two, because she has some cushions on the blanket too, and she gestures to Defarge and Folia. Feel free to sit, relax as well. And I think she also has like a little bowl of candy sitting on the blanket that you can like eat out of.
Yeah, Folia looks to Defarge and to the candy, and then to Alistair to see if it's all right to listen in to his future.
Oh yeah, I definitely wave the two of you over and have you sit down.
And then she sits down and reaches into the bowl of candy right away, because the soup is not quite vegetarian.
So this enigmatic old woman looks at you, Alistair, and kind of is like shuffling the deck very methodically as she looks at you. And then she lays out a couple of different like full decks in front of you and says, "What is your question?"
What is there for us here?
And she waves a hand kind of to the different decks and says, "Pick one."
I guess I picked the one that's most on the left. Sure.
Yeah. And I, Noella, do not know that much about tarot card reading, so we're just gonna gloss over that a little bit. So she starts to lay out cards, and you can see like the different figures. And since this is like fantasy land, it's probably a little bit different than like the traditional tarot cards. But she starts speaking to you and says, "Our city is mysterious and being torn apart. There's much for you to learn here. If you are willing to look deep and take a risk. You may avoid conflict, but you will not learn as much. And if you want to learn, you may learn much about the way the world weaves together and how the threads of different lives pull and diverge from each other. But it might tingle your soul.
Well, it's not the worst future I've heard. I thank you very much. I want to learn more about your city, and I think it would behoove me to do so.
Yes.
Do you know if I were somebody who wanted to go and learn more about this city, where should I go? What should I learn? What should I do?
Many of us have spent a great time by the great fountain, looking into the water and seeing the wind ripple across it. At night, the stars reflect in it, and we can see the patterns, but be careful, because the Solaris are hanging around there these days, and some of them are not so friendly. Well, they may be friendly, but that is because they want you to join them.
That's very good information. I'll check it out. Thank you.
She kind of points towards kind of like the center, like where you would go to get to like the center of the city, and says, the great fountain is in the center, the very center.
So I guess with that, I mean, I would sit there with the others and see if they're ready to get up, if they're done eating candy.
Solly is still munching, but as you look at her, she yeah, I'm done.
Should we check out the fountain?
Let's go. There are no spiders around here.
Also, as you walk along the streets, I'm guessing towards the fountain, there are like normal city things happening. There's mechanical horses pulling carts, little like mechanical dogs running around, barking at you. A lot of people playing card games, and as you approach the fountain, you can kind of see it, like there are a few people who are kind of like by themselves, just like looking at the fountain, or like putting their feet in it or putting a hand in it, just kind of enjoying it. But then there's also a bunch of the people with the sunglasses that you assume are Solares, and there is also a man with like, I don't think his sunglasses are necessarily like different because they're basically the same, but he definitely stands out as being like in charge.
Just on our way to the fountain, maybe shortly before we arrive at the scene, I would like to ask Alistair, do you believe that woman with the cards?
Well, I believe she sees some form of the future. There are multiple futures.
But why didn't I see any spiders around her? How can she see the future without being a friend of spiders?
Well, perhaps she keeps them hidden.
No, I would have sniffed them out. It's not like I was eating candy all the time, looking at Folia.
In either case, she pointed us to the direction that we needed to go. What more indicator of her being able to tell us where to, our future is where you need to go. You have to go to the future. And she pointed us in the right direction. Because we're here now.
I agree. I agree. It was not for nothing that my first glyph pointed towards the right, the future, the way we need to go. I'm curious what those people with the sunglasses have to say. I would like to talk to them later.
And I would love to listen in when you do, but they seem scary. So I think I keep a little distance.
So, oh, did you want to say something, Robert?
No, go ahead.
So, yeah, as we're doing these scenes, just keep in mind that you are looking for the warp and weft strands. So, when you do things, you can always prompt me and say, I'm trying to, like, I'm doing this and hoping to get this strand. So, you're at the fountain, and there's the kind of the regular people, and then there's the Solares. And you can also see now that you're closer that Rose, the woman from before, is there, along with the prophet guy who's, I think, standing up on the edge of the fountain so that he's taller. And they're talking, and you can hear him saying, it essentially sounds like him preaching, right? So he's like, the sun god controls the cycles of time. The sun marks the days and the nights, and it will tell it, and it will reveal to us glimpses of the future. We just must a single inevitable future, and we must look to the sun for the future. And then they kind of all do like the simultaneous, like almost like a group of like a group of cats like watching the laser pointer go, like they like put their heads up and like look up at the sun.
Curious to get my hands on one of those sunglasses. I'm not sure if I call them sunglasses, but those dark glasses. I would like to try something. I was thinking about using magic, but maybe I'm not, just because if I understand the rules correctly, if whenever I try to do something without using magic or unaided by magic, you decide one sort of shortcoming or something. That might be interesting. So what if there is a crowd of people and some of them are wearing those glasses? I would like to use the fact that I'm pretty tall and broad-shouldered and just incidentally run into someone standing there trying to knock that person over, so that hopefully his or her glasses will fall off and I maybe can, in the ensuing, I don't know, chaos or whatever, I can just pocket those. That's my brilliant plan that I have.
So I think you can definitely do that. I think you can kind of accidentally on purpose knock one of them over, but I think you're gonna like you're gonna hurt them, like accidentally. You're gonna like dislocate their shoulder or something, and
that's okay.
And that's gonna like. It's not going to be just like an accident. Like it's going to turn into a bigger incident in the long run than you want.
Oh.
So do you want to do that? I mean.
Okay, so they will realize that it wasn't just an accident.
Well, I don't know if they'll realize if it was an accident, but they won't just like forget that it happened.
I mean, alternatively, I was thinking about just asking the person doing the preaching if he had some spare sunglasses. Which, personally, I would assume that they're trying to recruit, and so...
Yes. let's just say, I mean, I imagine Defarge to be someone due to his animal-like nature who acts on his instincts. So I would probably say that if after a minute or two, what you just suggested doesn't happen or doesn't seem to happen, then he will go back to plan A and just, you know, run someone over or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's
So-
just waiting.
Yeah, so we'll start with plan B.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, we'll see how the plan E plays out, and you might get a little too much unwanted attention as well. So, Alistair, why don't you walk up and try and get some glasses?
Yeah, so I guess I would walk up and, you know, he's there preaching about the sun god and one single thread and all that. And you know, I would really like to look up at your sun god, but you know, I don't want to harm my eyes. Is there any protection? Can I? You know, I know a lot of the people around here have sunglasses. Do they create them themselves, or is it readily available?
So I think he kind of looks at you and looks a little bit angry that you're like interrupting him. He says, oh, "Stranger, who are you that you do not know the glories of the sun god?"
Well, I'm a traveler from out of town, and your theories are interesting about this sun god, and I would if I can prove it and I can look up and see it for myself, maybe I could spread this knowledge to other cities.
He kind of steps down so that he can talk to you, and he pulls a pair of sunglasses out of his pocket, and then kind of grabs you and like puts them on your face, and like with his hands tilts your face up to the sun and says, "Traveler, one guided by the sun, look up and see your father, your protector, your guide."
Yeah, it is. It's very bright.
Do not close your eyes to it. Take it in.
It's a lot. Like, it kind of hurts. Should it hurt?
At times, traveler, pain is the doorway to revelation.
I think Folia goes over to Alistair and puts her hand on his shoulder and says, "I think if you're a first timer, you might take a step back and just look for a short while. I'm sure that's better for your eyes, right, Mr. Leader?"
And then, so that woman, Rose, kind of steps forward and says, "This is the great prophet Helion, speaker of the sun god, savior of us all."
Ah, yes, thank you, Helion. And she takes a little bow, of course, but I'm sure you would agree that novice like my friend here is a bit sensitive to the sun.
So he looks a little like displeased, and Rose steps forward and kind of starts speaking to you. She says, "Of course, our ways are a little, seem unnatural to some, yet once you are bathed in its light, all shall be revealed." And then she like takes the sunglasses off your face and then like folds them and puts it in her pocket and says, "Return tomorrow, and we shall instruct you more and more in the ways of the sun."
I think I've seen enough for today. I can come back tomorrow.
And so I think you have a weft point now because you were, in a way, taught how to wear the garment, kind of manhandled into it.
Yeah, I think so.
So now you have one warp and one weft. And so we're running a little low on time. So in terms of so we have 3 more days left. And so I think what we should do is kind of run them all together and kind of go event by event, like this happened, and then we'll decide, okay, I think maybe let's play for let's play until the 40 and then go to the egregore. Does that sound good?
Oh.
Yeah, so while we're playing this, we're just gonna say this is all happening within the span of 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the next day, and I think you're eating breakfast at the inn where you're staying, and there's a couple of other travelers along with the people who work there. And then there's also actually a rather young looking woman who's kind of sitting in the corner, not doing much. And one of the she's not a teenager, she's older than that, but she's still young. And then one of the teenagers who's working there is bringing her food and going over to talk to her occasionally and things like that.
So, eating his breakfast, Defarge asks you, what should we do? Should we see if those people wear different garments for different purposes, for celebrations, or that they have a king who wears a special garment?
Well, I would still like to see those glasses and whether they have different designs for different people. Those glasses seem important. And I'm sorry I messed up your opportunity to get one. They took it away, possibly because of me.
It's actually good that they took it away. It hurt. It hurts to wear them.
Oh, it hurts to wear them. Oh.
Well, to look at the sun, it hurts. And I don't think that they should be doing that. I don't think we should be doing that, but I can keep doing it.
So the teenager, the young man, the young boy who's basically the waiter, he overhears you say this, and he kind of comes next to the table and kind of in a low voice, he kind of leans over to you and says, "They hurt you too?"
Well, it didn't feel good.
He kind of tilts his head over at the young woman in the corner. Said, "My sister, she was with them for a long time, but she's blind now. She can't see anything."
Yeah, many of the scientists have said that you shouldn't look at the star, at the sun, and it does hurt. It doesn't feel good.
She's in so much pain, but no one will listen to me. I mean, plenty of people hate the Solaris, but
I don't hate them. I don't hate them at all. I just think they're following a false idea.
it's like he says, a bunch of my friends have joined up with them, but they won't believe me when they say that Missy went blind. They said it's just her fault. She just did it wrong, but I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think so either. I think, yeah, I don't think those sunglasses are protecting them quite as much as they think they are.
Probably not. Is there something we can do to help?
He looks at you and says, I don't know. Besides somebody else going blind, I'm not sure, but if you could keep a lookout for medicine that could help her, that could relieve her pain, I would be very grateful.
I don't think there's any medicine to cure the blind.
But at least something to relieve her pain.
I'll be sure to look. And she motions to the farms. Don't be so negative.
All these false hopes and illusions. I think they make you weak. It's better to tell them.
So,
is there any way for us to use our magic to somehow cure her blindness?
So would we use magic by using our glyph, or can we just use the threads?
Either.
Okay.
You can use your glyph power, or you can use your threads. I don't think there's a way that you can cure the blindness. I think you could probably use magic to do something to like make her feel better.
Yeah, it says under the thread that suffices, you can use it to ease others' burdens. So that would probably, and I think you, Folia, you're the expert in that one.
Yeah. I'm not sure how doing that magic would look, but
mine was just because I have the thread that reveals is my number one, and how better can you reveal things than by curing some of their blindness?
Oh.
But I don't think.
I'm gonna say we can't like necessarily like cure her of the blindness. I think the goal here is more to like make her feel better. So an idea would be like maybe something that you could like wrap around her face to like help the pain go away.
Yeah, maybe. I think Folia always has a pocket in her apron, but she has some kind of bandages in, probably, and she looks at the bandages and strokes over them lightly, or like over the air over them, and then hands them to she goes over to the young woman and says, "Here, if you put those bandages over your eyes, you will surely feel better very soon."
So she puts them on, and I think she wraps them around her head, and her brother helps her wrap them around her head as well. But I think she says like, "Oh, she kind of lets out like a sigh of relief. She's like, oh, it feels so much better. Thank you so much. And then she kind of, well, not looks at you per se, but kind of turns to you and says, you want to know about the Solares and their glasses? And she pulls out of her pocket kind of a pair of these sunglasses that kind of look worn, and she gives them to you and says, I don't need these anymore. Feel free to use them to learn more about those people.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very helpful.
So I'm going to give you a left point because she freely gave you a copy of it. And she says, as you're kind of like parting ways, she says, be careful. All they care about is the sun. They don't care if it makes you blind.
I see. I will look out for this. I'll be sure to take care of my eyes. All of our eyes. Thank you. And I bring over the glasses to the other two to the table and say, look, they're kind of worn, but maybe we can learn something from them.
That was very good, Folia. We could try to build a better pair of glasses. What are those made of? What's the material? And if Foliar doesn't disagree, he picks up the glasses and holds them up. Is that metal? Stained glass? What is it?
I think the frame is wood. And then the glasses part is like a stained glass.
See, this is what they have done wrong. You can see through them, but you cannot gaze into the sun for too long. They should have used something, I don't know, thicker material like calfskin or something that's semi-transparent. Let me think.
Do you think the best idea is to fix their glasses or correct their ways?
Given that we have little time in the city of clairvoyance, I'm not sure if we can do anything but fix their glasses.
And given you believe in the same thing they do, Folia says, smirking.
I looked
Easy
into
for
them
you to
once.
say.
I don't necessarily believe in what they believe.
But I mean, Defarge, he already said he believed there's only one thread. I'm sure he wants to look into the sun too, don't you? That's why you want to fix them.
I'm curious, but I'm not stupid. I'm not using these to look into the sun. And besides, that Rosa woman, she was over those glasses, she was arguing with her own pack, with her sister. I'm not sure how clever they really are.
Well, they do know the future.
So did the other woman. One without the glasses. With those cards.
Yeah, I wonder why she only told us one future. If she thinks there are several. All right.
I
She told us to.
think I can make a better pair of glasses. It'll take me a day, maybe only an afternoon, and I will try different kinds of skins: calf skin, common leather.
I think I would absolutely help you with this because I'm so good at making things with like all fake stuff like nylon. I'm good at nylon and linen and I don't know, fake stuff.
Excellent. You can help me with the frame.
Plastics.
But isn't the wooden frame perfectly fine? It's not the frame.
Yeah,
That's the
I
problem.
think we should work on the film.
I like the wood.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, you will also have to find the right materials. Because I don't think you necessarily have all of them right now.
It's true. I mean, if we actually do use some kind of animal skin, then I think that I might have a small selection. Not entirely sure. Well, but yeah, we definitely need some of those, some of the material.
So why don't you? I think you all might have to go kind of looking around for someone to either sell you something or give you something. So where do you want to go looking for either fabricate or like fake or man-made material or like a skin?
Since so my background is the traveling company, I guess that this gives me some experience or some that helps me with the orientation in strange city or in unknown cities. Maybe I know where to look, like where to find the marketplace.
Another thing to consider is one of your kinsfolk might be here.
Oh yes. Oh, absolutely.
You might be able to find one of your kinfolk who could help you get some skins.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and since they either do repair work or put on some shows for the locals, he is most likely to be found in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Great number of people there as an audience and potential customers for repair work.
Yeah. So I guess if Tina and Robert, you agree, you guys can head over to the marketplace. So the marketplace is sort of arranged into a few different sections. I think it's kind of circular. I think it's kind of a smaller plaza. It's not right by that central fountain, but it's kind of like a big like circular plaza where there's kind of like a thing in the middle, like where people will gather. Like if there's shows, it's like where the street performers will go. If there's shows, they'll stand in like the middle, and the people watching them will be in that inner circle. And then in one section, there's food. Well, one section is kind of like a food court where people are making food for people to eat right there, and there's like like little tables where you can sit down. And then there's like the food market for you to like buy raw meat and vegetables and spices. And then there's more like wares, like people selling jewelry and clothes and fabrics. And then there's a whole section for fortune telling and seeing the future. And of course, that's there's like travelers and people coming from out of the city coming in and out of this section. So there's a lot of tourists and travelers in that seer section. So where do you want to look?
If we come to the marketplace, is there any point where we could stand to get an idea? Oh no, is there any part of the marketplace where a group of people gathers?
Yeah, in
Like-
that middle part. In that middle
Mhm.
part would be where people would gather.
I mean, that would probably be the area where someone would do whatever kind of show they're doing. So let's go over there and look out for the people from my company.
Yeah, so you walk up to the market, and I think also, so around the square, there's like buildings, and like the market kind of trails off into the little alleyways between those buildings. And so you would like walk up through one of those alleyways and then into the bigger marketplace, and you see, in the middle, you see, I guess it's essentially like a little dog show, like dogs doing tricks, jumping through hoops, doing tricks. And you see like one of your cousins, Largo, like leading the dogs in the tricks. And as you walk up, he's doing it, and then it like finishes, and the dogs do some bows, and like there's the hat for money.
I walk up to the hat and throw in a coin, clapping.
And I think Largo is probably not as wild looking as you, but also has the fur thing going on. So he kind of sees you, and he's like, "Oh, Defarge, so nice to see you."
Oh, Largo, what brings you to this wonderful city, my old friend?
Oh, you know, performing, traveling, seeing, walking the circuit of the world.
Oh, the same old, same old.
Yes.
And where's the rest of our crew, of our company? Are they with you?
Well, some of them, and he kind of points over towards, like, they're kind of in between the grocery section and the wares section. He kind of points, and you kind of see some sheep standing over there and a couple of like wagons. He said, "Oh, I got some of us are sitting over there."
Well, Largo, as you know, I recently finished my first glyph, and now I'm exploring the world. And those two are my friends. They are Folia and Alistair. We have come to the city to study the garments, and I think we might need your help.
Oh yes, anything.
Well, and then I briefly explain to him our plan and would tell him what kind of material we need. I would probably tell him what kind of animal material we need.
So I think he definitely has what you need, but you're gonna have to give him something in return.
What could that be?
What do you think it could be?
Mm,
Something of value.
I mean, we could give him my gloves, which are like silver chain. And I think silver to him would be a little bit weird and a different material. And
Yeah.
I would be willing to give them up, I guess.
well, Alistair, I can tell you, he is reliable. If he says he will bring us what we need, he will do so.
Well, how about this? I will give him one of my gloves. And then when he gives us the product, I'll give him the other.
Sounds very good.
Yeah. So he gets you what you need. You give him the gloves, and I think then you go to I think you go and you make the glasses. Yeah. So, is there any like last scene that you want to do, like with those those manufactured glasses?
So are we going to test them?
Sure.
I'm not going to be the one to look through them.
I mean,
It
I
has to be
suppose
one of you.
I could, given that I use the other glasses.
No, I mean, you're already hurting from those. I think.
But I could tell you if they're better or worse.
Exactly. Yes, Alistair, you're right. You must wear those glasses. But look at them. We spent the entire day with the best material. They must be better.
I agree. They certainly look more high quality.
Well, animal quality.
And as we if we've been working on those glasses the entire day, we could try them on the evening sun.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. It'll hurt less. So yeah, I think I put on the glasses and try them on the evening sun.
So, what do you think? How do they compare?
I think they're probably way better. I think they're actually like crazy better, like to the point where you just realize that the glasses they're handing out in the town in clairvoyance are just, I don't know, like mass produced garbage. And if you actually made some glasses that were meant to do this, like, yeah, they work well.
So, my final question before we go to the egregore is, what do you think you would do? Do you think you will share this like new sort of glasses with the Solares and essentially enable them to keep like doing this weird and possibly bad stuff? Or will you just keep it to yourself?
I suggest that we talk to Rosa. Rosa?
Rose, yeah.
Rose. To that Rose woman. Let's see if our improved pair of glasses can convince her to reconnect with her pack.
Yeah. It's also like, do you want to interfere in either a good or bad way with a community that's not yours? You don't know what the impact of this is necessarily going to have. So I'm going to, just for time's sake, I'm going to leave it there. And now we're going to move into the egregore. So you three, so it's the dawn of the 5th day. You're getting ready to leave, and you've convened to create an egregore based on the knowledge you've collected about the city of Clairvoyant. And you're building it's a yarn mannequin animated by the garment of interest power. So these pairs of sunglasses and what they represent, they've kind of been imbued with this like social meaning. And that kind of magic is going to be embodied in this little puppet. So the egregore requires a certain number of warp and weft strands. And I did say you did compare the new one that you made to the other one. So I'm going to give you one more warp. And luckily, you have all that you need because you have 2 warp and 2 weft strands. And at the beginning of the session, I decided that's what you needed, 2 warp and 2 weft. So good job. There are kind of dire consequences if you do not have enough that you need. So we might experience that in the next 2 sessions. So the egregore forms and teaches you a mystery of the weave. what mystery of the weave, which I think is essentially like the universe, time, all that kind of stuff. What mystery of the weave do you think this teaches you?
Well, I guess it could possibly have something to do with one versus several threads of future, but I'm unsure which one is true.
Multiple, yeah, I think also those, like, is there one future or are there multiple futures? Also, that also kind of ties into the theme of like who's right, who's wrong, kind of conflicting sides and opinions that divide. It unites people, but it also divides people, divides families.
I mean, I would like if maybe it did have something to do with the sun, just not what we expected, or not what they expected.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like they had the right idea.
Yeah. And so now everyone gets a new glyph, and we can either make one from the table that we drew the beginning ones from, or we can work as a group to make a new one that's appropriate to the garment. And I think here it might be appropriate to do a glyph that's related to the sun, just because that's also like a really easy symbol to incorporate. I see the cat is helping.
Yes, I told you I like animals.
Get
Tina, you're breaking up.
Oh. I guess not.
Now I can hear you.
Okay. Weird. So this would be our second glyph, right?
Yes, and I think you would all have the same one, or at least similar. You could be slightly, like, I think you can all draw your own, but similar. So maybe something to do with the sun.
Okay.
I mean, since we all come from different guilds, like we could all also have different ideas of the sun.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Of course, I made the sun grow a little plant.
Are you, does anybody need more time?
I'm good.
I'm good. Yeah.
Good. Great. So, yeah. So it's time to move on from this city and all the things you've seen and the people you've met. So, yeah, that's the end of this session. Real quick, I just want to do a quick round of feedback so that I can get some feedback for next time. I think I'll see most, if not all of you, in the next couple of sessions.
Yeah. Not none of the next one, but the one after that. I'll come back.
Great. So I want to do some roses and thorns, which is rose is like what you liked, and then thorns is what could have gone better or what you didn't like. And just say like you can do roses for anybody, but just give thorns to me. Don't give thorns to the other players. So I'll just kind of go down. So I'll start with you, Tina, if you're okay with that. We'll do roses first and then thorns. No. Let's do thorns and then roses. It's good to end on a good note.
Oh, that's kind of difficult.
We can come back to you if that makes it easier.
But I don't have many thorns. But well, yeah, I'm not sure if we could have used our magic a little more. I mean, you prompted us to use magic, but I found it kind of difficult to actually find a way to do that. I mean, I did, but I don't think the others could apply their magic, right?
Yeah, and that also just might be, we need more situations where it's like, hey, you should use it's easy to think, hey, we should use magic here.
Yeah. Maybe just that we didn't have that much time. I mean, we made the characters and the world, the whole setting. Yeah. Maybe if that next session is probably easier to apply several kinds of magic. Just more time. But that's probably nothing you can improve.
Robert?
Thorn-wise, the only thing I have is I did not know, like, this is the first time I've played a diceless game. So I was a little bit in the dark for a little bit of it. I think I caught up and it all worked. But I don't know how you would help that or fix that or anything like that. But
yeah, this is the first time I've played a game like this. I mean, I've played diceless games, but they have like other mechanics. So yeah, I think it's kind of just like a learning thing. Yeah,
I think I just need to get used to that or try to learn how to play those games. So nothing against you.
Ica is gone. Oh, there he is.
Sorry, the cat wanted out.
What about you, Ica?
Thorns. Yes. Well, I agree with Tina that we didn't really manage to bring all our magic into the game, and it is, and I agree with you, Robert. It is a not strange, but a very uncommon system. So it took me time to get used to it, and to understand the mechanics and how they enable us to do what we wanted to do. So yes, yeah. But I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay, we'll cycle back around. Tina, what are your roses?
Well, I really loved how you brought the world to life. I mean, there was all kinds of stalls and and a bustling city and different kinds of people, and I really like that.
Thank you. Okay, go to you, Robert.
I guess I love just, we had a number of technical difficulties and we worked around that, and it worked out really well. So I just wanted to, I mean, I know it's lame to thank everybody, but thanking everybody for sticking around and working through those difficulties. If I had to pick just one, I would also say like Ica, just running. I mean, not running the game, but you know, you were a very strong constant, and that helped.
Thank you.
Micah, do you have some roses?
Absolutely. So I thank you very much for bringing everything that we only improvised in our microscope, not Microsoft microscope world. Animal-shaped robots were there. God-based religions played a very important part in the city of clairvoyance. All that was very good, and that we had the feeling of a very common city with a marketplace, as we could see it in any sort of medieval town, so to say. But still, there was something going on. I liked the atmosphere, and yeah, so I really enjoyed that. How you framed the city of clairvoyant
Yeah.
with a little tool that we gave you literally just 10 minutes earlier. So, yeah,
Well, luckily, I came up with the ideas for the little plot stuff this morning, and I was super happy that we came up with God-based religion. So I was like, yes, I can use the sun religion.
very, very good, very good. Yeah, perfect. I like that. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll stop the broadcast now.